Getting beyond polarities. This is Andre Koen, and I want to say thank you so much for joining us for another discussion as we work to teach, to share what we've learned over our 25 years or so in this diversity space. And so, again, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. If you like the content that we're creating here, please like and subscribe. You know how to do that. And if you don't, the iconography will help you out. But we're really trying to build a community, and also give us some of your feedback, because we don't know everything and we don't claim to know everything. We just want to share what we've learned as we've worked to build inclusive communities, to talk about equity and equality, and continue to look for ways that we can maximize our diversity. So thank you so much for joining us, and we look forward to engaging you in this particular session. One of the things I want to talk about is this notion of polarities, right? So oftentimes we talk about polarities. We talk about our political divide. We talk about both sides of the issues and whatnot. And what I would like to suggest is that oftentimes when we have these polarized stances, that they're actually fueled by subjective outcomes, things that can be that aren't necessarily rooted in goal accomplishments and are difficult to kind of navigate, right? So I want to talk a little bit about three. One is this notion of right versus wrong, and I believe that there is absolute truth out there. I'm not sure that we're capable of understanding what that is as human beings, but that's a whole nother conversation. But there's right versus wrong. There's good versus bad. There's them versus us, and these are the foundational kind of concepts that lead to these polarities, right? And so one thing that I'd like to offer is that maybe we should, and I oftentimes try to do this in my trainings, move from these subjective measures to really objective measures, right? Really trying to use cognition and thought to inform our emotional states and or our valued judgments. And so when we think about that, I really try to help organizations and individuals think about instead of right versus wrong, what is effective, right? And so how do we engage in effective strategies? And ultimately, what is our goal for interacting? You know, what is the goal of saying that something is good or bad, right? What is the goal of right or wrong? What is the goal of them versus us? And then the other thing is to recognize that we should begin with the end in mind, that we should focus on being outcome based when we're both creating our training programs, when we're engaging our training programs. And it's so interesting to me that oftentimes I'll have an outline that is just simply a guiding principle. But I will tell you that the purpose and the goals that I have set out for that particular training or event, I want to see manifested. I want to see happen, right? And so how we get there oftentimes is less important than the fact that I want to get there. And I do believe that the process is important, but I'm going to start spinning, so we're going to move on. And so lastly, it is this idea or the concepts of how do you manage groups beyond polarization, right? And so one is to encourage people to build larger circles. So if they find themselves in a group that thinks a particular way or behaves in a particular way, ask those individuals who want to be leaders, who want to be seen as leaders, who want to be effective, how they can draw bigger circles, because that's what leaders do, right? So they work to encompass more ideas. It is also important to recognize the power of yes and, right? So yes, I hear what you're saying, and may I add, right? Or yes, I understand that perspective, or yes, I appreciate that, and let me give you something else to think about, right? And so this yes and notion really adds to the cognition that people need to have to kind of break out of some of their silos, right? And whether those are social silos, whether those are cultural silos, whether those are, are communal or identity silos, the concepts of yes and can actually thrust us into thinking differently. And also don't back away from the fact that there are hierarchies, right? Address those hierarchies, but actually ask questions around how effective are those hierarchies? Are there things we need to augment? Does that lead us to our equity, inclusion, and diversity goals? And so those are important things to recognize. Also, question effectiveness. So, how effective is this strategy of being polarized? And what would be more effective? How do we reach our goals? And then, lastly, intentionally look for skills and networks, right? What we're not trying to do is teach ideologies. I believe there's enough of that stuff out there. What we actually want is to build the skills to have critical thoughts and create environments where people can share those, right? So we can create those networks, that we can create those skills necessary to be effective. And lastly, I'd like to just say, I want to say thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. If you like what we're sharing, the content that we're creating, please subscribe, please like, and we look forward to seeing who you become. My name is Andre Koen. I want to say again, thank you for joining us for Getting Beyond Polarities.